Welcome to the East Hampton Whitebrook Middle School Science Fair.
Okay, our project is called Ascent to Remember, and I'm Alexis White, and my project partner was Morgan Tabb. And the purpose of our experiment was to find out if scents affect memory, and if so, which affected the most. And we thought that the scent of peppermint or spearmint would affect it the most because it stimulates your brain and helps you think better. And we found out that it actually is the best scent to help you memorize things.
My name's Chloe Crabb, and my partner is Anna Morrissey, and our project is called The Hype on Stereotypes. Our question was, how will the age of an observer affect their judgment of an infant's gender, while the subject has gender indicators, such as toys like a doll, blocks, cars, or a teddy bear?
We hypothesized that the fifth grade group that we took aside would be more prone to using the toys to decide what the gender is of the babies, and the eighth graders would be more non-stereotypical.
Our conclusion was that the fifth graders did use more stereotypical judgment. As they viewed the baby with the doll and the baby with the cars, they thought that most of them thought the baby with the cars was a boy, and cars are usually associated with boys, and dolls are mostly associated with girls.
So, hello, my name is Andrew Connolly, and the purpose of my science fair project was to determine how active video games like Wii Fit would compare to traditional exercise methods. So, to test this, I attached my heart rate monitor onto each subject, and I measured their starting heart rate as well as their heart rate after each of my activities, which was the exercise video, jogging, Wii Fit step aerobics, Wii Fit boxing, Wii Fit obstacle course, and Wii Fit hula hooping. I've averaged out the results that I got and observed that jogging had the highest heart rate with 120 beats per minute, obstacle course with 119, step aerobics with 116, boxing with 114, exercise video with 109, and hula hooping with 107. So jogging is probably like one of the better forms of exercise. However, it still kind of compares, since I noticed that on these 5 of my subjects, they had a heart rate in one of their Wii Fit activities that was higher than their heart rate for like jogging. And there is a jogging activity on the Wii where you just jog in place with the Wii remote in your pocket. So it is not like the best form of exercise, but it's better than just kind of sitting on the couch to play video games. I concluded. Oh, okay. Wow, that's not helpful. I was surprised to find that the exercise video, which I expected to be one of the best forms of exercise, actually was the second lowest heart rate. I thought since it's like designed for people with who have a busy life to get a good workout, that it would be better. But that might have been because I only tested it for 10 minutes and it took longer than that to actually get the full workout that it was designed for. So that's something I would change if I did this again. I would also test more subjects to get more reliable results, and I would test like more activities, like more Wii Fit activities, more traditional activities, and even things like the Xbox Kinect, which is another active video game. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
I'm Hunter, and this is Christian. Our project, Magnetic Malfunction, was working off the idea that the element bismuth is diamagnetic, which basically means that when you place bismuth with a magnet, the magnet will repel from the bismuth. So our experiment question was, how far could you take two magnets, pull them apart, and place a piece of bismuth between, and would it still levitate?
We thought that we might be able to have levitation about 3 inches between the magnets, and what we were doing is we would have the bismuth between the magnets, and we would raise it and lower it and see we would have a ruler right next to it, so we would measure it, and we'd record what would happen with every distance. And the results were that we could not get any levitation at all. We think that the problem with that was because of the amount of bismuth that we had. We had to use pellets that were about this big, like around the size of a dime. And it doesn't really work that well like that. You're supposed to have a big amount of bismuth, and you're supposed to have the magnet in between the pieces of bismuth.
Hello, my name is Nick Connor, and my question for the science fair was, how does ski length affect downhill speed? For my procedure, I got permission and made arrangements to run the experiment at Berkshire East, and I made sure the only variable in my experiment was ski length, and I used 3 sets of skis of 140 centimeter, 150 centimeter, and 162 centimeters in length. The skis were the same make and model with the same tuning. The skier was the same person, me, and weight was also the same. I measured and marked a 200-foot-long straight stretch of slope on 2 different trails. One stretch was steeper than the other one. I made 5 runs on each stretch with each set of skis. Each run was started and timed by my assistants. I made sure there were no other variables during the runs. Each start was from a standstill with no push-off. I held the same body position, kept a straight line, and shifted side to side to avoid creating one track in the snow. The same assistants started each run and timed each run, as I said before. The snow conditions and weather on the day remained consistent. For my data, I averaged the times for each set of skis on each stretch of trail, and the times are there. I divided the length of each stretch 200 feet by each average time to get the average speed in feet per second. I converted the average speed to miles per hour using the factor of 1 mile per hour equal to 1.4667 feet per second. And the average times are there. On each stretch of trail, as the ski length increased, the average speed also increased. The average speeds on the trail roundabout were faster than on the trail top notch. This is because the trail roundabout is steeper. I also calculated my weight distribution per centimeter of ski by dividing my weight by the total length of each ski set. My weight distribution decreased as the ski length increased. And those numbers are there. My hypothesis for the experiment was that a ski length in the middle length range of a set of skis would go downhill the fastest. This is because that ski length would have a proper balance of weight and surface area to make it the fastest. In conclusion, my data shows that my hypothesis was incorrect. I believe that I controlled all the other variables so that the ski length was the only variable. I believe that making 5 runs with each set of skis on both stretches of slope gave me a good sample of times to get a good average time. Downhill skiing is the transfer of the potential energy of elevation to the kinetic energy of motion. Gravity pulls the skier down the hill. This was a constant because I was the same weight on every run. By running the skis in a straight line down the slope, I maximized the potential for speed. Skis go downhill because of the slide effect. The pressure of the weight of the skier creates a thin layer of water under the skis, and this overcomes the friction of the skis on the snow. As I said before, as ski length increased, my weight distribution on the skis decreased. This further reduced the friction of the skis on the snow and increased my speed. And also, as I said before, as ski length increased, my downhill speed also increased, and that disproved my hypothesis. Next time, I would like to know if there is a ski length where my weight is distributed too much, and if this would cause me to slow down. To do this, I will extend my experiment by using even longer skis, and this would prove my hypothesis correct, hopefully. I would also like to try a different experiment with a different variable such as weight. I will try using skiers of a different weight on the same ski length to see if there was an ideal weight to make that ski length the fastest downhill. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Hi, my name is Leah.
And I'm Jessica.
Our project's name, as you can see, is Medication Education.
The purpose of our project is basically to find out which works better for medication. All natural medicine, like honey or oatmeal, or prescribed pharmaceutical medicine, like anti-itch cream or antibiotic ointment.
Our hypothesis is that the prescribed medicines work more efficiently than the all-naturals.
We tested anti-itch cream versus oatmeal. Then we tested antibacterial cream versus honey against bacteria. We did this at Smith College for safety precautions, and if the medicines killed the bacteria around it, then that medicine was successful. In our pictures, there are zones of inhibition, basically just zones where you can see that the bacteria has died in the petri dish, and they're see-through zones around the white pieces of paper called filter discs, and that's where the bacteria has died. And that means that that medicine was successful.
During our procedure, we observed or noticed some information. One thing is that if one of the medicines didn't kill any bacteria, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just doesn't work against this specific strain of bacteria that we used.
Another observation that we noticed is when you put your solutions into test tubes, the amount of medicine/chemicals matter way more than the amount of water.
As you can see on our graph, only antibacterial cream had an effect. Nothing else killed bacteria.
Our hypothesis was correct. The prescribed medications worked way better.
If we were going to do this project again, we would probably test more variables or medicines.
We didn't expect the anti-itch cream not to work, however. We kind of knew that the all-naturals wouldn't work, but not the anti-itch. Because we basically assumed since the anti-itch cream is supposed to cure the itch, then isn't it supposed to kill the bacteria that cause the itch or the fungi that cause the itch? But apparently it didn't. And I'm just curious as to the specific bacteria we used, if that was actually, because it was called Escherichia coli K12. And I was just wondering if that bacteria was included in causing itch, and apparently it's not, so.
And remember, just because the anti-itch didn't kill any bacteria, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It probably will still work for you. It just didn't work against this specific bacteria.
And that's our project. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Coleman. I am 14 years old and I'm doing a project on personal music players, earbuds, and noise-induced hearing loss in adolescents. Did you know that approximately 1 in 5 teens have some degree of hearing loss? According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, today's teens are losing their hearing because the world is noisier than it was when our parents were our age. One of the biggest culprits is personal music devices, especially when used with earbuds. Digital music can be played at maximum volume without distortion, and earbuds deliver sounds directly to the wearer's eardrums with impressive efficiency. As a result, today's teens are more likely to crank up the volume in their earbuds than their parents were to dial up top tones on their Walkmans. Do teens realize that they are setting themselves up for hearing aids? The purpose of my science fair project was to confirm that music can affect hearing, even if played at a safe volume, so students can see that listening to music with earbuds can cause hearing loss. This can be confirmed by testing the subject's ability to hear several tones between 8,000 to 0,000 hertz before and after listening to a 30-second sample. In addition, I asked students about their preferred volume compared to the recommended volume. The question I asked for my science fair project was, do teenagers who listen to a 30-second sample at a comfortable volume show signs of performing worse on a mock hearing test? In order to see if listening to music affected the subject's hearing, I looked for signs of a temporary threshold shift. I play several quiet tones, ranging from very low pitch to very high pitch, and the subject records the number of tones they hear. This tells me where their hearing threshold is. After listening to loud music, their ability to hear quiet and high-pitched sounds can get worse for a little while. This effect will go away after being in a quiet environment for a little while. Noise-induced hearing loss is what happens when the threshold shift isn't able to return to normal. Permanent threshold shifts can happen from listening to loud sounds like fireworks and jet engines, but it can also happen from listening to loud sounds for long periods of time. The most important task I faced in setting up the experiment was to make sure that the subjects were listening to music at a volume that was safe. If I let students listen to music as loud as they wanted, I could have been adding to the problem rather than educating students on preventing it. The first part of the experiment involved calibrating the student's computer sound card so that the test music stayed under 75 dB. The student listened to 25 chirps at 3500 Hz and were instructed to adjust the sound output on the media player program so that they could hear a maximum of 20 out of 25 chirps. When they set the volume to this level, the 30-second sound bite would be no louder than 75 dB, as measured by the decibel meter app. To make it the same volume, I used an excerpt from the 1812 overture. I augmented the sound output, so all the frequencies were at the same volume. Here is the procedure I followed for my experiment. After the subjects calibrated their computers to the correct and SAFE volume, they listened to several tones between 150 Hz and 20,000 Hz. The subjects counted the number of tones they heard. Then they listened to the 30-second music excerpt I described, and then they listened to another set of tones. If the students experienced a temporary threshold shift, they would hear fewer tones in the second set than in the first set. In addition, I asked the students if their preferred music volume was louder, quieter, or the same as the excerpt they just heard. Finally, I asked if they heard ringing noises, which are often a sign of tinnitus, and if they think their hearing is better than, worse than, or at the same level of their peers. After testing students, I found that most of them performed worse on the hearing test after the song than before the song. All except for one, which actually performed better on the hearing test than before. I also noticed that when they took the earbuds out, I could hear the music, which I could also hear when they were in their ears. After using the earbuds, I felt a slight pain in my ear canal, which may be due to the design, since there was a rod on top that was meant to be tucked into a fold in the pinna, which is the part of the ear that's exposed. In conclusion, I found out that it takes 30 seconds or less to cause hearing loss. Earbuds can cause hearing loss, and that if you don't stop listening to music at loud volumes, you'll end up needing hearing aids. An interesting thing that happened was that one of the students had their hearing improve after the 30-second sample. I can't explain why this happened, but it could be because the subject miscounted, didn't pay attention to the first group of tones, or may have mistaken tinnitus for one of the tones. I had several technical difficulties when I was getting the experiment ready. I put the experiment online so people could try it from their own computers, and it was pretty tricky. A few failed uploads, server crashes, and missed saves later, I was able to present this. Well, that was my science project on earbuds, and I hope you enjoyed it. I have fact sheets about noise-induced hearing loss that you can take with you that has information about ways to protect your hearing at home, school, work, and play. Did you know that there are apps that can turn your iPad or smartphone into a decibel meter? I will be able to answer any questions you have about hearing loss as long as it wasn't already answered in the previous statements.